Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a real classic today, Dale Carnegie's How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. It's packed with advice and techniques for, well, conquering worry. And we're going to see how much of it still holds up today.
It's really remarkable how Carnegie manages to break down something as complex as worry, right? Like he breaks it down into these actionable steps. He doesn't just tell you to stop worrying, he gives you the tools to actually understand it and then manage it.
And one of the coolest tools I think he offers is this idea, and it's so vivid, of living in these day-tight compartments.
Oh, absolutely. Like picture an ocean liner, and it's got all these separate sealed compartments. So if one compartment like floods, the entire ship doesn't go down,
Yeah.
right? So Carnegie, what he's suggesting is kind of like we apply that same principle to our lives. Focus on today, and don't let those worries from the past or the future kind of spill over.
Yeah. Yeah. Like almost like building these mental firewalls to protect our present moment. And you know what? This resonates so much, I think, especially with all the challenges we face in the digital age, right? We're just constantly bombarded with information, anxieties coming at us from all these different directions. I feel like day-tight compartments,
Yeah.
that could be the key to like reclaiming a little bit of peace of mind.
It's fascinating, right?
Yeah,
How this concept, it's from 1948, but how relevant it is today to our modern struggles with this information overload.
absolutely. So, okay, how do we actually build these mental compartments? Like, does Carnegie give us some techniques, specific things we can do?
Well, he emphasizes a lot of mental discipline and action over passive techniques. And one of his key steps, it's really simple. It's focus solely on today's problems. Don't borrow trouble from tomorrow or yesterday. Just deal with what's right there in front of you.
Okay, staying present, not letting our minds just run wild with what ifs.
Exactly. He also suggests, plan for the future, but don't obsess over it. So set aside like specific times for planning and then bring your attention back to the present moment. It's almost like, have a plan, but don't let the planning consume you.
That makes a lot of sense. I know I can get really caught up in planning for like every possible scenario,
Yeah.
and it ends up being way more stressful than helpful. Is there a third step to building these compartments?
Accepting what you can't control. That's a big one because there are just things, right, that we simply can't change no matter how much we worry. And Carnegie's point is dwelling on them, it just drains our energy. It doesn't help.
Right, like acknowledging, you can't control the weather,
Yeah.
but you can choose, what clothes to wear. It's a shift in perspective.
Exactly. Recognize what's within your control and focus your energy there. And when it comes to taking action, Carnegie has another really intriguing concept. He calls it a three-step formula for tackling those worry situations.
Okay, now this sounds really useful. Tell me more.
So first, he says, ask yourself, what's the absolute worst that could happen? And then, and this is the tough part, like brace yourself. Brace yourself to accept that worst case scenario, like no matter how daunting it seems.
Wow, that sounds intense. Why would I like willingly accept the worst possible thing?
Because, and here's the thing, once you confront that fear, like
Mm.
head on, it loses its power. You've mentally prepared yourself for it. So it's no longer this looming unknown threat.
Oh, okay. Like taking away its power by actually shining a light on it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And once you've kind of faced that worst, then the third step is to calmly work towards improving upon that scenario. So now that the fear is not paralyzing you, you can start to brainstorm, right? Solutions, take action.
So it's about, I guess, shifting from being controlled by worry to, I guess, taking control of the situation, even if it's just mentally preparing yourself for it. I like that. It's an empowering approach.
It is, and it really highlights this recurring theme in the book, taking charge of your thoughts
Mhm.
and your emotions instead of letting them just run wild.
We're already seeing how much wisdom there is in this book, and we've only just scratched the surface.
One of the ways Carnegie suggests we take charge? Action. He actually proposes something kind of surprising. Keep yourself busy.
Oh, that's interesting. So is he saying we should just bury our heads in the sand and ignore our worries?
No, no, not at all. It's not about mindless distraction. It's not about procrastination. He actually talks about engaging in meaningful activities, productive activities that bring a sense of purpose, a sense of flow.
Okay, so finding those things that both keep us occupied, but also contribute to our overall well-being.
Precisely. And he emphasizes that a busy mind, especially a mind that's focused on fulfilling tasks, it just leaves less room for those worries to creep in.
It's like that old saying, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Like, when we're engaged in purposeful action, worries tend to fade into the background a bit.
Exactly. And you know what? This actually ties into another key theme in the book. channeling negative emotions into positive action. So instead of letting that frustration or anger just fester, Carnegie encourages us to harness that energy, use it constructively.
So instead of dwelling on those negative feelings, we can actually redirect them towards achieving a goal, working on a project, even helping someone else.
Exactly. And in the book, he gives this great example of a man. He was just consumed by anger and resentment towards his former employer. He was just constantly stewing over these injustices he felt he'd suffered. But then he decided to channel all that energy into building his own business. He just poured all that frustration, his determination, into making it a success. And you know what? He not only achieved like financial independence, but he also found this peace of mind.
Wow, that's such a powerful example. Transforming negative emotions into positive action. And it leads to these incredible outcomes. It's like taking those difficult feelings
Yeah.
and like using them as fuel, right? Fuel for growth and accomplishment.
Yeah. It's a real testament to this idea that we have a choice. We have a choice in how we respond to challenging emotions. We can either let them consume us, or we can actually channel them into something productive.
This concept of choice, it really seems to be at the heart of Carnegie's whole philosophy. Taking control of our minds, not letting our emotions kind of dictate our actions.
Absolutely. And this leads us back to accepting the inevitable, something we touched on earlier. There are just things in life beyond our control, no matter how much we worry.
Things like, I don't know, the weather,
Yeah.
traffic, or the outcome of a game.
Right. Exactly. So instead of wasting all this energy fretting over things you just can't change, focus on what you can influence.
Right.
Direct your effort towards those areas where you can make a difference. Carnegie reminds us a lot of our worry, it stems from things that never even happen.
Oh, that's so true. I catch myself doing that all the time, catastrophizing, like envisioning this worst-case scenario in vivid detail. But then when I look back, most of my biggest worries never actually came true. It's almost like my mind creates those anxieties to like distract me from dealing with real present challenges.
It's a very common human tendency to magnify potential threats. And Carnegie, he kind of encourages us to, pause, analyze the odds. Like, what are the chances of these worries actually materializing? Ask yourself, what are the real chances of this happening?
And often when you actually examine the situation objectively, you realize that likelihood of those fears coming true, much smaller than you imagine.
Precisely. He also highlights the power of prayer and faith as sources of comfort and strength. And this is regardless of, your religious beliefs.
It's about finding that sense of peace, surrender, in the face of uncertainty, whether it's connecting with a higher power or simply trusting that things will work out.
Yeah.
That belief can really help alleviate some of that worry.
Exactly. And Carnegie, he emphasizes some more practical techniques too, like counting your blessings and avoiding comparisons with others.
Right. That's so important, especially today. With social media, you're just constantly bombarded with these images of, these seemingly perfect lives.
Yeah.
So easy to get caught up in feelings of inadequacy.
It really is. And Carnegie, he just reminds us, true happiness, it doesn't come from external validation. It doesn't come from material possession. It comes from within. It's about cultivating a positive mental attitude, regardless of your circumstances.
Choosing to focus on the good in our lives, even when things are challenging. Find those silver linings. Appreciate the simple joys.
And he really emphasizes that happiness. It's a skill. It can be developed and cultivated just like playing an instrument or learning a new language. It takes practice. It takes dedication.
And he gives us some concrete strategies, right, for building that positivity muscle.
He does. So he suggests things like expressing gratitude regularly, focusing on our strength, our accomplishments, and surrounding ourselves with positive influences.
Such practical, actionable tips. It's not about wishful thinking. It's about actively shaping your mindset towards positivity.
Exactly. And he actually shares these inspiring stories of individuals who have overcome like immense obstacles through sheer willpower and a positive outlook. For instance, he recounts the story of a man who was diagnosed with this debilitating illness, and the doctors gave him only a few months to live. But instead of succumbing to despair, this man, he chose to focus on the time he had left. He traveled the world. He reconnected with his loved ones. He even started a new business. And he lived for several more years, filled with joy, purpose, defying the odds. It really proves that our attitude can have such a profound impact on our experience.
That's incredible. Such a powerful example of the power of mindset, even in the face of adversity. We have the ability to choose how we respond, to find meaning and even joy in those unexpected places.
Exactly. And Carnegie, he challenges us to consider, what's the story we're telling ourselves? about our lives? Are we focusing on the negative, or are we choosing to see the good? Choosing to find those opportunities for growth and happiness.
Recognizing that we have the power to shape our own narrative, even when circumstances seem completely beyond our control.
And speaking of taking control, Carnegie, he emphasizes the importance of decisive action as this key antidote to worry. He really argues that indecision, inaction, often that's the breeding ground for anxiety.
It's that feeling of being stuck, spinning your wheels, not making any progress. That can be so incredibly stressful.
Precisely. And he suggests that any action, even a small step, it's better than remaining paralyzed by indecision. Action creates momentum, and momentum fuels confidence.
So instead of getting bogged down in overthinking, analysis paralysis, just take a step, any step, in the direction you want to go.
Exactly. And to help us kind of move from worry to action, he offers this really practical 3-step process.
Yeah.
First, get all the facts, because a lot of times worry, it's fueled by incomplete information, inaccurate information.
So like if you're worried about, let's say, a potential problem at work, the first step would be to gather all the relevant info.
Yep.
Talk to the people involved, get a clear understanding of what's going on.
Precisely. Once you have all the facts, next step.
Yeah.
Make a decision. Stick to it. Indecision, that's what breeds worry. So once you've weighed those options, commit to a course of action.
Even if you're not 100% certain it's the right one, the act of making that choice moving forward, it can help alleviate a lot of anxiety.
Exactly. And the third step, act on that decision. Don't delay, don't let procrastination or second guessing sabotage your progress.
Take that leap of faith. Trust yourself.
And as you take action, you'll likely find that worry starts to fade, like the fog is lifting, revealing this clearer path forward.
So instead of letting worry paralyze us, we can actually use it as a catalyst for gathering information, making decisions, taking action.
Precisely. It's about shifting your perspective from worry as this debilitating force to worry as a signal that it's time to move from thought to action.
What an empowering way to reframe our relationship with worry. It's not something to be feared or avoided, but a prompt to engage with the situation, find those solutions.
Yeah, as we move through this process, understanding our worries, taking action, cultivating that positive mindset, Carnegie reminds us of something really important: gratitude.
Ah, yes, the power of gratitude. It's so simple, but so profound.
And there's a wealth of research that actually supports the benefits of gratitude. Studies have shown that people who practice gratitude regularly, they experience greater happiness, improved health, increased resilience in the face of stress.
Shifting our focus from what we lack to what we have.
Yeah.
Appreciating the simple joys in life, the things we take for granted.
Exactly. And recognizing that even amidst challenges, there's always something to be grateful for.
Like finding those silver linings in every cloud.
Right. And Carnegie, he reminds us that even when things seem really bleak, there's always hope. He shares stories of people who have overcome just incredible adversity, who have found joy, found purpose in the most unexpected places.
It's a good reminder that we're all capable of resilience, that we have that inner strength to overcome challenges, create a life filled with meaning, happiness.
Absolutely. And that's ultimately what this book is all about. It's empowering us to choose how we respond to life's challenges.
Choosing courage, hope, action over worry and fear.
Precisely. Recognizing that we have more control over our thoughts and emotions than we often realize. It's amazing how much practical advice Carnegie manages to pack into this book. He doesn't just talk about these concepts, right? He gives you actual concrete strategies to use, like right away.
Right. Yeah. It's like he really wants you to apply this stuff, not just read it, but put it into action.
Exactly. And one of the most powerful techniques I think he emphasizes is cultivating a sense of gratitude. Just that act of focusing on the good in your life, rather than dwelling on the negative. It can have such a profound impact on your well-being.
Shifting your focus from what you lack to what you have, appreciating like the simple joys, the things we so often take for granted.
And there's a lot of research to back this up. There are studies that show people who practice gratitude regularly, they tend to be happier, healthier, and more resilient in the face of stress.
It's like training your mind to see the glass half full, I guess.
Right.
To find those silver linings even when things are tough.
Exactly. And even when things seem, really bleak, Carnegie reminds us there's always hope. He has all these inspiring stories he shares of people who have overcome incredible adversity and found joy, found purpose in the most unexpected places.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. We're all capable of resilience. We have that inner strength to overcome challenges, and to create a life filled with meaning and happiness.
Absolutely. And that's really the ultimate message of how to stop worrying and start living, I think. You have the power
Mm.
to choose how you respond to life's challenges.
Right. It's like you can choose worry and fear, or you can choose courage and hope and action.
That's it. What a powerful message. And it's just as relevant today as it was back then, right? I mean, Carnegie's insights into human nature, they're timeless.
They really are. This book is, well, it's a treasure trove. It's full of wisdom and practical advice.
I couldn't agree more.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into how to stop worrying and start living, what's the one thing you hope listeners will take away from this?
I hope they'll remember that worry is a choice. And it's a choice they don't have to make. They have the power to choose peace, joy, and a life filled with purpose.
Beautifully said. And I hope they're inspired, maybe even a little bit, to explore how to stop worrying and start living for themselves. It's a book that can really change your perspective
Mm.
and help you live, well, a happier, more fulfilling life.
I wholeheartedly agree. It's a must read for anyone who's seeking to navigate life's challenges with more grace and more resilience.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of ideas